Hello, Adam McCarthy here of Immersive Sports Science. Only my motto is sports science, not bro science, content, not commentary. But we are making an exception to the rule in terms of commentary due to a popular demand. And now we're going to talk about do the sports science, if you like, react to the sports science of the Italy versus England game, or more specifically, the penalty shootout. Hopefully this upload is to UEFA's liking. This time they won't claim my face as their visual property. Now we have done a playlist on penalty shootouts. If you'd like to see that, click the card above. And in this video we're going to utilise the sports science to help understand and identify what went wrong and what went right for each team. But first of all, any PK is actually taken, we need to look at the actual body language of both teams and understand that there is very much a difference in the way they've approached this penalty shootout. Not only that, each individual player will approach the penalty shootout different from a mental perspective. And looking from England, they seem to be a bit agitated, a bit anxious. It's probably because they spent most of the game being under pressure and they let in a sloppy goal, which obviously then reacts on their mind, and players may start to question their own abilities and question their abilities to even take a penalty in this particular situation. It's high stress, it's high stakes, and it's highly individual. And when we look at players like Grealish here, or when we look more specifically at players like Luke Shaw, there doesn't seem to be a confidence. Now, you would have thought he would have been confident in terms of Luke Shaw. An absolute blinder of a football match. It's probably one of the best matches he's ever played. When we look at the Italians, for instance, yes, the team itself is generally more expressive anyway, in terms of their body language. But they generally seem to be more confident, and they generally seem to be louder. And when you're more confident, what research they've done with the New Zealand rugby team, you generally seem to shout loud in training. We could clearly hear it on the microphone or the camera, even though we're pretty far away from the actual group huddle. Just because people are highly aroused, ready for the actual competition itself, the event, taking the penalty shootout, sometimes they can be over-aroused. And this can ultimately affect their performance, making them more anxious potentially, and that's a negative towards performance, especially when taking a fine skill like taking a penalty. Now, research by Palacios Huerta has suggested that alternating kick sequences is actually given an unfair advantage to the team kicking first, with statistical evidence showing that the team kicking first wins roughly around about 60% of penalty shootouts, likely due to the team kicking second being under more pressure when trailing in a shootout. Italian penalty takers Domenico Berardi, Andrea Belotti, Leonardo Bonucci, Federico Bernardeschi and Jorginho had collectively taken 117 penalties for club and country. The Italian players had almost double the experience of England in terms of actual penalties taken. Okay, so the first penalty we're going to look at is Harry Kane's penalty. Now, in a penalty shootout, the odds are really against the goalkeeper. The striking or the kicking player has about a 69% chance of scoring. Nice. And the best goalkeepers in the world, or on average, the average goalkeeper usually saves around about 29 to about 30% of their penalties over their career. Now, the best goalies in the world will react in around about 8.3 seconds. So they see the stimulus, the player running up to the ball and about to kick it, and then they make an action or a reaction to that. And that takes around about 0.83 seconds. But by the time they've reacted, the ball is already halfway towards them. So therefore, the kicking players always had an advantage. Even if the goalkeeper dives the right way, there's a high chance that they could still score if they kick it into any of the four corners. They call this the diving envelope. So the reach or the span in which the goalkeeper can reach that potential football. Not every goalkeeper, even this goalkeeper who's 6'8", can reach every part of the goal. It requires a good amount of arm span as well. But if they could reach that part of the goal, those corners, they're likely to just get beaten by the sheer power and speed of the football. In this situation, Harry Kane is able to score even though the goalkeeper dived the right way, dived the right amount. He simply put it far enough out for him not to be able to reach it in time. Now, the top corners are where the best places to score. If you can hit it on target, you've got about 80% chance of scoring. Bonucci did this, and so did Harry Maguire. Now, if you look at Rashford and the Italian number 9, they both start narrow before heading out wider in order to partly confuse the goalkeeper where they're going to strike the ball. Ironically, they both missed their penalties. The Italian number 9 telegraphed his penalty, while Rashford probably well, he focused too much on the goalkeeper to send him the other way before kicking it the direction he was going. In other words, he was trying to be goalkeeper dependent, but focused too much on the goalkeeper potentially and missed the shot. Although after saying that, it was a good strike. If it was a few centimetres the other direction, he would have scored. During the duration of a penalty shootout competition, a goalkeeper is primed to either dive one way or the other way. Even though a player has 50% chance of scoring down the middle, so your chances as a goalkeeper is actually really good at saving it, you could argue it's potentially less because you just primed yourself to dive one way or the other way. If a goalkeeper doesn't dive, well, they look silly when they get kicked past them. Now looking at Jadon Sancho's penalty itself. As he's come to kick the ball is, well, we want it to go through the air because that's the quickest way of kicking it. We don't really want it to touch the ground because the way the modern balls are designed, any form of friction will slow it down drastically, and that will give the goalkeeper a chance. However, you need to get it deep into that corner. And that football mustn't be kicked at the perfect height to be saved. As we can see from Jadon Sancho, he's kicked it right at the perfect height for the goalkeeper to be saved, to save the ball, and he hasn't kicked it out of the diving envelope. Now, Donnarumma, being 6'8" and having a massive step forward, has actually helped to cut that angle off. But Jadon Sancho should have done better than hitting it lower to the ground. The perfect height to kick the football is roughly below the goalkeeper's knees. Jorginho is arguably the best penalty taker in the world at the moment and has a really unorthodox technique. Now, as penalties are quite unusual aspects in football games, when someone does something unusual, it becomes known. And Jorginho does it so often, we all know, everyone in the crowd, every child, every man, every woman, every football player, know what he's going to do. He's going to run, hop, skip and jump and hit it into one of the corners. Now, which corner he's going to kick it into, we don't know. What he is, though, is what they call goalkeeper dependent, meaning he relies on the goalkeeper to make the move first. So therefore, it's vital that the goalkeeper stands his ground up until the last moment. Now, it looks like that Pickford's done really well to save it, and he has. But this is actually quite a poor penalty from Jorginho. He kicked it into the ground. As we mentioned prior, we don't want that ball to touch the ground because it actually slows the ball down. The power of kicking the ball into the ground makes the ball go up rather than go along forward. If you kick it through the air forward, it gives the goalkeeper less chance of saving it. And England's last penalty taker, Saka, here taking it, it's actually quite a poor penalty. He narrows the angle, meaning that there is only really one place he can shoot unless your name's Lionel Messi or you got the skill of Lionel Messi, and that is in this direction to his right hand side. Because the way we kick the ball and the way we strike the ball, because of the turn as we come in to kick the ball, means we can only shoot it in that direction. Donnarumma knows this. Because of the angle he's shooting at, he has to dive to his left. Not only that, it was at the perfect height to be saved, meaning the goalkeeper didn't have to dive far in order to save the ball, and it was still inside the diving envelope. Hello, it's Future Adam here, and just to do a video about the England versus Italy game and the penalty shootout without commenting on the aftermath would be wrong of me. The way those three players have been treated has been absolutely disgusting. This is not a nuanced debate about statues and symbols or even words. This is a conversation about respect and having respect for an individual's existence, regardless of their race, colour or creed. Now, on Immersive Sports Science, we support debate, but we will not support anyone showing who's not respectful of others within that group and others' rights to be there. Racism has no part in a modern society and will not be tolerated.